Thank you, everybody, and welcome to attend to my presentation, SQL for Performance Monitoring and Troubleshooting using free community tools. The idea is to know some of the tools that we have available in the market. Some of them coming directly within SQL servers, and some others created by distinguished community members, and then release it to the open source community. So most of them are released in GitHub. So everybody's free to contribute and make those tools better. The premise here is that try to have all the tools that are free, right? So we don't have to pay a single coin for this, and most of them they are really good, and for certain scenarios they are excellent actually. Right? So let's get started. Before that, just an introduction of myself. My name is Javier Villegas. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I'm work as a DBA manager for Mediterranean shipping company for a number of years now, like 14 years or so. I'm involved with SQL Server with over 25 years now, involved since the very early version 6.0, 6.5 till the current one, including the Azure offering. My specialty is basically target to SQL administration, performance monitor, high availability, disaster recovery. I am Microsoft MVP in the data platform category since 2016. I'm also blogger and forum contributor, all the different communities. And in my free time, I love to do this kind of thing, being a technical speaker, any kind of event I can present. I love to engage and talk to people about technology, mostly related to the PaaS community, all the events, right? PaaS Marathon, 24 hours of PaaS, SQL Saturday, all of them, and also other communities around the world. I'm a member of the SQL Argentina PaaS virtual chapter since a number of years. And on the slide you also have my contact information, Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are the ones that I have more presence. I like to share and contribute to the community within Twitter and LinkedIn. So let's get started. Here we go. So just as an introduction, right? Every SQL professional, DBA, developer has its own set of tooling, right, to do performance analysis and troubleshooting, right? Most of them have, several parts that are common, right? But then it's up to us to decide which is the right for our particular needs or particular scenario, right? So that's the idea, to know most of them and then have the knowledge, and after using them for a while, well, know how to combine them maybe and choose the right one for us. There is something that is extremely important, is that there is no magic, or there is no tool, pay or free, that is able to fix bad coding techniques, right? So in my case, as DBA, I would like to spend time doing training and evangelizing the developers at my company, just to get an understanding on how to do certain type of T-SQL coding, right? With following certain rules, always based on the best practices, and trying to stay in line. So this is the best, let's say, solution for everything, right? Spend time with your dev community, right? And try to get up an understanding and just to follow it and evangelize on it. On every troubleshooting process, we may have this cycle, right? First of all, we need to observe, watch, and see how the environment behaves, right? In parallel, we also have to capture metrics, right? Any kind of performance metrics related to CPU, I/O, memory usage, weight stats, etc. Then, after collecting that metric in a sort of a baseline, right? We can always have the base to compare the status of what we are seeing at that particular moment, right, versus our baseline, right? And if we have certain variations, we can always adjust, fix, right, and start this cycle again, right? Keep monitoring, keep capturing metrics, right, and compare with the baseline. This is a repeatable process that is the base of everything. So this is the agenda. Some of the topics that we will be covering today, maybe less, maybe more. Let's see the timing we have. And the idea is to have a quick demo on every of the tools that I will be presenting today. So we will be talking about Performance Monitor, we will be talking about Profiler, Management Studio, Extended Event, Azure Data Studio, and then well-known solutions like the one from Brent Tosar, Glenn Berry, and Ola Hallengren, right? And a few others. So let's start with Performance Monitor and Profiler. We, as a DBA, most probably those are the first tools that we get involved with when we need to start doing performance analysis and troubleshooting, right? And in one side, we have Profiler, and we can easily track what is going on within our SQL Server instance, the one that we are monitoring, right? So we know when a statement starts, when a statement ends, and the resource usage, like, for example, CPU consumption, reads, writes, writes on 10 dB. We have all the activity that SQL Server is doing. I always said that Profiler is a good tool, but we have to be extremely carefully on how we use it, right? Because there are certain situations in where, we're going to be troubleshooting an environment that is already in a bad shape. And if we start Profiler and we don't do it in the right way, we can add and put more problems instead of looking for a good solution. So, but using it properly, right, is a good tool, and it's a valid tool. From the other side, right, we have Performance Monitoring, where we can capture all the or several actually metrics or counters from our system overall, like CPU usage, process CPU usage, all the metrics for every single disk, right? Like read, write, queue lengths, idle times, etc., etc., etc. So those are the tools that we have and we all know. But something to consider that not everybody knows it is that you can combine the data from both of them to do a deeper analysis. How do we do that? We're going to see it later live, right? But the idea is that within Profiler, we will be able to import, right, a trace capture with Performance Monitor, and based on the timestamp, we will see exactly what's going on. So as we said, we have Profiler, right, to check all the activity within the SQL Server. We have Performance Monitor, where in this example, we are capturing, activity from CPU and disk, right? And then we will see the way to combine them. So we see exactly at any particular point in time, at any or every execution of every single SQL statement, how were the Performance Monitor counters at that particular time. So this way we can do a better analysis. Okay, then we have Management Studio, right? Management Studio is the tool that every DBA use and loves and consume for years, right? It's a quite mature tool that help us to do all our tasks or most of them, right? Um, One of the particular features that that Management Studio has is this activity monitor, right? Activity monitor is something that is is there since many years ago, and it's good because in a graphical interface you are able to see uh, resource consumption like CPU, IO, etc. You can also see expensive queries, right? So you can easily get a snapshot of all the activity within your SQL Server and sort them by weight, right? The most heaviest one at the top, so you can do certain analysis. Again, this tool is well known, but with the introduction of SQL Server 2019, this tool becomes a little more, let's say, hot, right? And why is that? One of the problems that all DBA had in the past, right, was, okay, we have a statement or a process running, right? So maybe that report is an critical report for our company, and it's running. One day it's taking longer than usual. So when we go and check, we see that it's been running for like an hour, for example. But how do we know if that statement is close to finish or it, is just at the very beginning, right? How do we know if that procedure, that report is close to end, or instead we still need to wait some time, right? Uh, you know, Before SQL Server 2019, I would say this was not possible, right? But now, with the feature called lightweight query profiling, we can easily, right, see what is the percentage of the execution that the statement is in that particular point in time, right? So, if we go and we check from either Management Studio, right, with live query statistics, or with the activity monitor, we can see, if the execution is on the 80%, 90%, or 10%, and with that we can take better decisions, right? We're going to see it in action later on. Also, within Management Studio, there is a set of performance dashboard reports. In the past, these reports, you had to go and download it as a separate component from the Microsoft website, and then install it, and then deploy some objects to the instance in where you want to use these reports. Now, in Management Studio, those are part of the offering, so you can easily see certain performance dashboard reports very easily, right? And then we have dynamic management options. These are the basis of every single monitoring solution, right? Paid one or free, right? So these are the objects in where SQL Server reports constantly the health of the instance and help us to diagnose any kind of problem, and also to do tuning, right? For example, there are these DMOs, dynamic management objects. We have views and functions, right? In this slide, I try to just summarize a few of them, related to a specific area. For example, transactional, index, missing index, and query statistics, and plan. There are many, many more that you can, let's say, check information about your host. You can check the health of your availability groups if you are using, etc., etc., etc. So definitely these dynamic management options are the base of every single monitoring technique that we may have. And then extended events. Extended events is something that Microsoft it's been investing since several years. Actually, this is available since SQL Server 2008, and basically is a better way to do, let's say, profiler or query traces, right? It's a different way. It's extremely lightweight, right? So it's easy to set up. I mean, at the beginning it was a little bit hard to do it, but as soon as you get used to, you will see that you are able to perform any kind of solution to do, troubleshooting. We will see some of them in action later. The good part of this is that, in terms of tooling to do performance analysis and troubleshooting, Microsoft is not investing in Profiler anymore, right? If there is something new in terms of new set of events and, something new within the SQL engine, right? They're going to invest adding the functionality to extended events. To Profiler is kind of monolithic by now, right? So with extended event, we will see that is much powerful than Profiler, right? And then we have the query plans, right? With the graphical query plans, in where all of us, when we have to do troubleshooting of a particular statement, we grab it, we use it within Management Studio, right? And we can use and get the estimated query plan or the actual query plan. And then we will see that now we have a third option, which is the live statistics, right? The live query plan, sorry. And we will able to see it. There are several statements that are quite complex, right? So maybe just doing this troubleshooting within Management Studio is, maybe difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. So then we have our first third-party tool from our sponsor, SentryOne, right? Plan Explorer, right? This is a free tool that helps you to understand, learn, and get a deep insight of any particular query plan, execution plan, right? So this is you can use it as a separate tool or as a plugin for Management Studio. So this way you can combine, the execution plan and do the analysis from Plan Explorer. This is a free tool, and it's a must-have tool, right? Then going back to what Microsoft gave us within SQL Server, since SQL Server 2016, Microsoft has introduced this feature called Query Store, right? What I normally say is that Query Store is like the data flight recorder, like in a plane, right? But for your SQL instances, actually for your user databases within the SQL instance, right? So with this feature, you just can enable it per user database, and it's gonna automatically capture all the runtime statistics, right? And also the resource usage. And lately, since SQL Server 2017, also the weight stats, right? So every single procedure, statement, ad hoc query that it's running on a particular database within our instance is going to get recorded, right? So we're going to see the metric of how many times it was executed, minimum CPU usage, minimum read, maximum write, average, etc., right? And then if that particular statement has a change of the execution plan over time, right? We will see when it happened, how it happened, and we will be able to compare both the old execution plan and the new execution plan. And eventually, right, we can just go and force the execution plan that we want or that we consider that was best, right? So we force it and to use it manually. So Query Store is the first set of features that Microsoft is adding to SQL Server, right, to help us to not only be able to run our code faster, right, or with less resource usage. What is helping us is also to try to make our workload more stable, more predictable, and don't have those kind of problems that sometimes we see in where one statement, one procedure, on what report normally takes few minutes, and one day it just decides to start taking hours, right? So with Query Store, we have this black box just capturing everything, and eventually a DBA can manually force to use another execution plan, right? Then after that, SQL Server 2017, they added a new feature at the top of Query Store, automatic query tuning, right? That basically what it does is if there is any problem with a plan change, right, we can tell SQL that automatically and immediately use the last known plan, right? So this way, there is no need of us being in front of the Query Store console, right, just setting and forcing execution plan, right? And then, in 2019, many other features that, I know there are many sessions running today that we'll talk about them, right? But definitely Query Store is a great feature, and it's helping us to do, performance monitoring and troubleshooting. It's also really good when you do a migration, right? When you migrate, for example, your database, your user database from an old compatibility level to a new one, is easy for you to track regressions or variations, right? So maybe you have something running using this amount of resources, and then suddenly, it's taking longer. So this way, graphically, and also using DMVs, dynamic management views and objects, right? You can do it from T-SQL. So, here we have some examples of Query Store, how we see a particular statement and the variation over time. We can see, for example, the top 25 resource consumers, right? So we can sort them by resource usage, like, for example, time consumption or CPU consumption, et cetera, and easily understand what's going on within our server, right? And then since 2017, we can also track weight stats. So let's go to our first demo. And see how we can use some of the tools that we've been discussing here. Okay, so first of all, let's see how we can use this option called live query statistics, right? So this way, within Management Studio, right? This way, within Management Studio, we can easily, okay, here. So within Management Studio, we will set up, include live query statistics. We will have one particular query and see what's happened down here. When we hit execute, right, we see live the progress of the query. See estimated query progress, right? Well, it just finished. Let's run it one more time. So we go here, and down here we see every single operator the consumption, and this is live. This is what's happening in this particular moment, right? So we can have the estimated query progress, and with that take smart decisions, right? Smarter decisions. So this is, of course, a sample, something very quick. So we can see it this way. So then you can tell me, okay, but if you are troubleshooting on a live environment, most probably the statement that is running is not coming from Management Studio. It's coming from a web server, an application server, or something. So we cannot put it here and see, you know, the live query statistics. So for the demo, what we will do is we will generate. I have something that basically generates here. It's running here in the background, right? It's basically doing a random workload on my SQL Server instance, right? So with that, we go here, we go to my SQL Server Management Studio, right-click, and then we have Activity Monitor, right? Here we have Activity Monitor. So when we hit on Activity Monitor, what we get is this dashboard in where we have an overview with the processor usage, I/O, batch requests, etc., etc., etc. And down here we have the active expensive queries. So let's take one of that. And when we do right-click, see what we have. Here we have show live execution plan. So for any statement that is running, we can go and check the live execution, right? This is, sorry, where is my Management Studio? Here. So in a live way, we see every single statement running, and you see how this is moving, right? So we can track and see, okay, this one, the estimated query progress is 81, 82%, right? So with that, we can understand what's going on within the SQL Server. So this is really great. It's a tool that is quite useful. And, you know, again, you can go to another one and say, show live execution plan, right? And you can have it here. This is a feature, lightweight query profiling, right? Which is in SQL Server 2019 by default, but then Microsoft ported back to SQL Server 2017, right? So I believe we have to enable a trace flag, right? I can put the trace flag number on the slide note later. But it's by default and turn it on in 2019. So definitely something good. And you know, this is still running and still progressing, and we see it live, right? Okay, so then we mention SentryOne Plan Explorer, right? So we can just go here and open a plan that we have saved in our disk, right? And easily we see it graphically, and then we can, you know, just go through the whole plan in a, let's say, graphical and easy way. We just see a red here, so we can try to understand what's going on. So we can get more insight of every single operator and operation within our SQL Server, right? So this is Query Plan. We can get the same and do actually the same from Management Studio, but with Plan Explorer, it's definitely a better tool to do it. And again, it's free, and it's a must-have tool. And then we can talk about the extended events. So for that, I will spin up another management studio that I have on a different machine. Let me just grab it here. Okay, this is another management studio, and we can understand extended event this way. On this instance, we have here the management extended event, right? I have created these three extended event sessions, right? With that, I mean, these are actually the same extended event sessions that I'm using in my production environment, right? This way, I'm constantly capturing SQL Server errors, statement duration. So let's say I have it configured to return a statement start, a statement end, SP completion, SP starting, all the same events that we may choose and use from Profiler, but within the extended event, and using filters. For example, we can specify, okay, just give me all the errors except the one reporting to backups, for example. Or for duration, give me all the statements that are taking longer than 1 minute, 2 minutes, depending on our need. And then deadlock, right? We can capture all the deadlock information as it's happening live. So how we can use this? So let's start with the one for errors, right? Up here, what I have, I will clean my session and I will show you how do we do it. I will drop the session here. I will create a new session. The new session is basically quite simple. If you see here, we are just creating a session, a new event session, right? Creating a new event session with the name, and then we start adding the events. In this case, SQL Server error report. And here, under actions, we say all the columns or the data that we want to retrieve for a particular event, right? And as I said, we can do filtering, like for example, skipping certain error numbers, right? And then we have the target. In my case, is a file, right? And then we have several settings. In this case, the default. So what we do is we create the session and then we start it. So let's see. So we will run this, and then the script that we have underneath, right? We will see what it does. So we run it again, right? And this extended event session, what it does on my system is basically retrieves every single error, SQL error that is happening on the system. This is actually good when we do an upgrade of the main application, so we can identify what's going on and there is something critical that we need to address. So what I'll do here, see, I will create one store procedure, which is doing a division by 0 and doing a select from a table that doesn't exist, right? So, and then I will come here and execute it 20 times, right? It's running 20 times. As you can see, when it's finished, it's returning the errors. Then we will try to create the store procedure again, but in this case, the error is that the objects already exist, right? And then we can do a syntax error, or we can, generate any errors for the demo purpose, right? So when we go here, we see in the output, right, that we had 20 errors, we have the message, and then we have additional information like, for example, which was the statement that returned it, who returned it, who was the user, the application name, the client host name, everything, right? So if there is a single error in our SQL Server, we're gonna easily catch it. And with that, we can, for example, run this, insert the result into a user table, and then analyze the outcome, right? Then we can do the same with duration, right? This is running already on my server, and I get, as a result, all the statements that are running on the server, the CPU consumption, the duration, the object, etc., etc. And the same for deadlocks, right? We have here the extended event session definition, right? Again, it's quite simple. So we have the session, the event, in this case, deadlock, the target, which is the file, right? And then we just, parse the file, and we get all the deadlock information. Right? In this case, we have nothing. So let's move on with the presentation, and then we will come back here. All right. So this is some of the phrases that we may hear on the phone every morning when we get to the office. Well, hopefully not every morning, but definitely sometimes, right? So, hey, why my application is slow? Why it's taking longer than before? Something is broken. Please fix it. So the way to address all this is, trying to do proactive monitoring, right? We have two ways of doing monitoring. Reactive, so when the problem arises, we go there and we fix it on the fly. And then, there are other ways to do proactive monitoring. So try to, be prepared, or, predict when an error or how the error is going to happen, so we can be prepared and, probably don't even have the error at all. So let's go to another tool, SP Who's Active. SP Who's Active is one of the most popular tools, which is free. It's created by Adam Mechanic. It has several years, and it's using dynamic management objects, right? The MVs and the MF, right? And with this tool, what we do is basically we have this case in where our SQL Server is running slow right now. So we had to do something, right? So what's happening on the SQL Server? We go to this procedure, we execute this procedure, and immediately we take a picture of what's going on the server. We see all the statements, we see the line of code that is running, we see the CPU consumption, the writes on the TempDB, who is using it, for how long it's been running, etc. If it is involved in a log or something like that. So with that, we quickly take a snapshot of what's happening on the server, and then we use it to analyze it. The good thing is that we can keep it rolling and check exactly. It's like taking a picture of what's happening within your SQL Server at the instance level. There are all other. There is an additional possibility with this tool, is which basically so you take these snapshots on a scheduled basis every 1 minute, 30 seconds, or however you define, right? So you can use this as the baseline or on your system to then compare the outcome when things are not going so well, right? Here, SP Who's Active, is you can just go there, apply it, and run it with no parameters. Then there are additional options that we can use to tune or to filters and this kind of thing. But definitely, SP Who's Active by Adam Mechanic is a must-have tool. Then several years ago, I took a piece of the Adam Mechanic SP who's active process or troubleshooting tool, and I adapt it to my needs, right? So we have SPDBA currently executed, which is actually my version. I use it initially on my company, and then I adapt it to be used everywhere, right? So it's similar to SP who's active. The main difference that it has is that I was targeting to have a deep insight on the logs, right? So if you run this and you get and your system is involved in a log, right, you will have two result sets, one with all the running statement and one underneath that is only including all the speeds that are involved in the log. We can see it later in action. Then another of my favorite tools from Brent Ozar, right? First responder kit. This is also another must-have tool, right? So it's free, it's open source, right? And they are releasing it one update per month. So it's definitely evolving constantly, and it's it's in GitHub, so we can also contribute to make it better. So there are tools like, for example, SP Blitz, right? So you can just run it and get an overall SQL Server health check, right? Not what is happening in that particular moment, but maybe the whole thing, right? And the beauty is that you get the results with certain priority levels, right? So you have priority number 1, number maybe 10 and 50, and well, you know that those things are more critical than if you get something that is priority 250, right? But definitely it's a extensive report that will help you to see how your server is configured, how it's behaving, and definitely how you can compare this and the difference between your current environment and maybe something that is coming from the the best practices, right? Then another tool, another component is SP Blitz first. What is, if your server is running slow in that particular moment, right? You just run it and it's going to give you an insight of what's going on the server right now, right? So it's a complement of SP who's active, right? And that will give you additional insight of, how the server is configured and why it's behaving at that way in that moment. Then we have SP Blitz Cache, which basically what it does, it just goes through all the plan cache, right, and gives you an insight of the query usage, right? So you can understand how your queries were behaving, the resource consumption, and then you fine tuning. And then, we have SP Blitz Index, which gives you a ton of insight about your index strategy, right? How your indexes are configured, if they are used or not, if they are using it properly or not, and if there are missing indexes. So definitely, Brent Ozar First Response Kit is a must-do tool. Again, free, and you can definitely use it. Additional, as part of this offering, what we have is Power BI dashboard, right? That is coming within the files that you download, that you can configure all these tools that I just mentioned, right, on a schedule, right, and capture all the information and store it in a user database, right? Then with this Power BI dashboard, you can go there and get graphically a better understanding of what you have. Then another of my favorite tools is the VPC check, right? This is from the Microsoft Tiger tool from my good friend Pedro Lopes. Basically what it does is you run it, right? and it will give you an extensive report of what you have right now, and compare it with the best practice. So it's like a best practice analyzer, right? So if you have something that could be misconfigured, it's going to give you a warning and say, hey, this you should review it because it's not as indicated in the best practices, right? So definitely a great tool. Also available in GitHub, so everyone can contribute. Then another set of tools is from Glenn Berry's, right? The SQL performance queries to do diagnostics. These are also extremely good because they just cover all your instance and give you a very detailed report of almost everything, right? So there are one version of the query per SQL Server version, right? And if you dig deeper, you can even go to very old SQL Server version, right? But definitely the reports that you get with that will give you a really, really good information, and you will understand much, much better what's happening in your server right now. And if you have a problem, and definitely this option, like all the previous one that we just mentioned, right? From Adam Mechanic, from the Tiger team, and from Brent Ozar, you will also see in the reports that there are links to URLs that will give you insight to documentation that will help you to solve that particular problem. So it's not only just telling you, hey, you have a problem here. It's also pointing you to the right documentation on how to fix it or how to address the problem, right? Here is the output of one of the Glenn Berry's tool. We're going to see it later. And then, oh man, something that I really, really love, right? I'm getting in love with PowerShell and of course, DBA tools, right? When you have a huge environment, when you have distributed SQL servers all around the world with, virtual machines in Azure, in any other cloud, on-prem, everywhere, and, it's getting complicated to do monitoring and troubleshooting, right? With DBA tools, right, which is a PowerShell module, right, you can automate a ton of things related to your SQL Server. So if you had any particular needs, like, for example, check how your availability groups are in this particular moment, not only the one you have in front of you, but all the farm of SQL Server that you have around the world, it's quite easy, right? From a central PowerShell console, just go everywhere and get the information. And not only availability group, you can get information related to everything. You see the list here and you name it, right? You have DBCC statement, you have log shipping, information related to replication. So there are several components that you can easily go and grab. DBA tools, free, right? And for the community, and you can even contribute to make them better, right? And then, of course, Azure Data Studio. This is the, I think there is one of the session today about the Azure Data Studio. Azure Data Studio is the brother of Management Studio, which is multi-platform, and it's a great extensive tool because, you can download extension to increase the functionality. But these Jupyter notebooks, right, that will help you to extend the functionality of your scripting are great. We're going to see them in action, and definitely you won't believe it. Another solution, if you have to do maintenance of your SQL Server, right, index, rebuild, update the statistics, backups, any flavor, right? All a Hallen Green maintenance solution is today, let's say, a solution that everybody, I mean, there are several professionals using these tools, just downloading them, right? Applying them and use it as they come with minimum customization, right? Because you can easily set up your whole maintenance solution with this script to do, as I said, and integrity checks, index, rebuild, update the statistics, definitely something to pay attention. If you're also dealing with indexes, right, there is a graphical tool from Sergey Sirovachenko, right, which I had the pleasure to meet him a while back, right? So in a graphical user interface, you can see all your index status and fragmentation level, and with that, take action, like, from the tool, just reindexing, reorganizing, etc., or generate the script to do it later. Another open source solution available in GitHub. So let's go to the demo. Ceci, do we have any question? Are we good with the timing?
Yes, you have 10 more minutes, and we have people asking if you're going to share the slides.
Yes, definitely. I will upload the presentation in the SQL Saturday site. So you will be able to download it right after we finish.
Yes, check out the schedule. You'll see the button there.
Yeah. It's going to be there in a minute. So I still have this this random activity on my SQL instance, right? So I will show you SP who's active. Right? As I said before, this one will return quickly all the activity within the SQL Server, right? So we can run it as many times we want. And we are just, sorry. Right, so we run, and you see that quickly we get the results and what's happening on the SQL Server right now, right? So we see, for example, information here for how long they've been running, the session ID. We have the statement. So if we click on this, we're gonna get, the full statement. We have the login name. We have information related to wait stats, CPU, from which machine it's been running, for how long they've been running, which is the application name that is executing this, etc., etc., etc. As I said, it's quite quick. You see, you run it, and immediately you get the result. Then, you have if you specify the option help, you will see all the different combination or filters that you can use to make this according to your needs. And here we have the other option, which is SP currently executing, right? Which is kind of similar, right? Returning maybe less amount of information, but most focusing on the needs that I have. And, you can just see on which database, which is the percentage of the transaction log, which is the wait types, and the application, etc. Right? So then, as we said, BCP check, right? From the Tiger team. I ran it earlier because it took 5 minutes to go through all my instance, and you see you have the report of, for example, for how long the server is up. You have information about your hardware, your disk, your availability groups in case you have it. In this case, is my laptop, so there is no information related to availability groups. Then you have information related to the databases, database files, database usage. It's also going through all the plan cache and giving you recommendation on how to improve the activity on your SQL Server. Definitely another great tool. And then we have the option from Brent Ozart, right? SP Bleed First. We run it and we get all the list of things that we should be taking care of, right? This is what is happening right now. My server is under stress because of this script that I'm running beforehand. So we see here with priority which are the things that we should be addressing first, right? queries with 10,000 plus cardinality misinsertion. So definitely good insight. And as I said, how to stop it, we have documentation, right, on links to go and mitigate this problem, right? SP Blitz. So again, this one goes and check all the server, right, and give us the status of the instance health. And just to move a little bit further, we have here the Power BI coming with the first responder kit, right? So we have I have on this instance running a SQL shop every 1 minute or something like that, just collecting all this information from the store procedures, right? Storing them into a user database, and quite simple, right? We just get and do insight, not only graphically, but we also see the recommendation that we saw in Management Studio here. We have details about, for example, the file speed, file sizes. We also have performance monitor counters here, right? And the last tab here will tell you exactly how to do the setup to configure this, right, to run on a schedule as a SQL shop extremely easily, right? So definitely go to the Brent OSAR webpage, download it, subscribe it, and you're gonna get the updates monthly. So what else? Then we have, I mentioned earlier, Azure Data Studio, right? With Azure Data Studio, we have, for example, here, the first responder kit from Brent OSAR, we have it in a Jupyter notebook, right? With this, no, in a notebook within Azure Data Studio, you can combine, text, you can combine code, not only SQL code, you also have other languages here, like, PowerShell, Python, Spark, Scala, right? So you can combine within a single script all these languages and with markup text. So, you can connect here, run piece by piece or run it together, all together in one shot. And the same thing that we were getting through Management Studio with this script, we get it within this notebook. What I like a lot here is that we can save this notebook and we can distribute it with somebody else. So they're gonna get the code, the text, and also the results, right? So they can easily compare what they are getting in the system that they are running the script versus the one that I was getting as, for example, baseline. So super useful. And just to finish, right, we have here DBA tools, right? Few of the options that we have. For example, what we will do here is we will run this particular piece, right? And you will see that DBA tools is, when we run it, it's going to pop up something to start checking for, what we would like to get from this particular instance. For example, top weights, right? We should select it, right? And we get the result down here. This is actually based on Glenn Berry's script, right? To do diagnostic scripts. So within DBA tools, right, a free community tool is calling a script from another community member, right, Glenn's, right, and combining them in one tool so we can, easily go and automate it and, maybe pick up information from a list of servers, not only one, right? So we can run it this way, or we can specify, for example, I just want to get version information, right? So we run this piece, right? And quickly, we see that this is running SQL Server 2017 with the CU20, right? Then we can do, for example, configuration values down here. So we run here, and what we get is, all the SP configure from our server, right? Server properties, the same. So instead of getting the helper at the beginning, right? The graphically, we just specify which query we can run, and these are Glenn's very query that they are the same that's coming on the script that he wrote. Same here for hardware information, right? So we can get here and we get, where my SQL Server is running. So in this case, it's going to give us the hardware info. So extremely useful. Then here there is another one that's called DBA checks, which basically generates a bunch of checks on our server, predefined, that at the end, we're going to run it. Let's do it another way. Let's leave it running because I don't know if we're going to have time, and we will switch to the next one while it runs. This one I like a lot because we run it and we get all the insight related to the disk. Oh, I have to stop this one and run this one. So we see file by file, right? Data, log, this location, and we get an insight about, or a recommendation related to the read and the write performance, right? If it is very good, if it is okay, if it is slow and we need some attention, if there is a serious I/O bottleneck. So this is based on the usage in my instance. And another one that I like a lot is this one that basically allows you just to go through all your instances and back up your system objects into files, right? So we run this, right? And in this folder, C DBA tools, what we will get is a name of the name of our machine with the timestamp, and we will get, you see, the logins, the DB mail configuration, the SQL shops. So you are doing a backup of your system objects. You can use it, for example, to save it into your release management, or if you are, for example, if you are provisioning secondaries for read-only secondaries, you can use this to provision them. So extremely useful. And this is just 4 of these tools. There are ton of them. It's extremely easy to use them. So I really encourage you to go to dbatools.io and start exploring them. So okay, let's go
I'm sorry
back.
to interrupt you. We're running out of time.
Yeah, let me close here and show you. All right. Well, another tool to check, SQLWatch.io is a graphical solution based on Power BI. So definitely something to pay attention. InfluxDB with Telegraph and Grafana, another open source solution we can use, right? Here there are references to all the tools that we cover, and here we go. We finished the presentation. If there are questions, again, you have my contact information up there, so feel free to reach me. The presentation and the script will be available to download in the SQL Saturday Los Angeles website. So thank you for attending. I don't know, Ceci, if there is any question.
The last question was about can we also download the demos? I guess you just said that.
Yeah, it's gonna be, the presentation plus the script, they're gonna be all there in a few minutes. Probably within the hour, it's gonna be available to download.
Fantastic.
And with that, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and well, keep enjoying the SQL Saturday Los Angeles. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Javi.
Bye.